In this video, we're taking a look at storyline comic books as an investment. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle Haas. I hope you don't mind my current lighting setup. In this video, I had to record it at night. Usually I do stuff during the day, so I had to, kind of put this lighting setup together, and hopefully it doesn't bother you guys, but it is what it is for this video. But that said, we're still gonna have a great video, and that's gonna be me talking about storyline comic books as they relate to sort of a spec book and an investment. Now, what do I mean by storyline comic books? I'm talking the Secret Invasions, I'm talking Secret Wars, I'm talking Armor Wars or Infinity Gauntlet. Comic books that relate to storylines that we are potentially going to see in the MCU. And then I'm going to kind of analyze it and take a look and see if, what are the legs with spec books that deal within this space as compared to, first appearances of characters. But before I can get into that, if you guys could drop me a like or comment or subscribe, if you're enjoying my content, would really, really help support the channel. I'd really, really appreciate it. Love engaging with you guys and having this conversation. So let's keep it going. If you do one of those things, that would be awesome. All right. So with that being said, let's kind of get into this here. And I have a supposition, and that supposition is this. I don't believe that storyline spec books have legs to stand on, so to speak, within terms of sort of the long play of a comic book investment. Now, that's not to say, look, if you are a fan of storyline comic books, if you got 15 copies of Infinity Gauntlet #1, that's awesome. I actually think that some of these books are really, really cool, and I actually own some of them myself. But as far as an investment sort of speculation strategy, as we look at what's the growth potential and the ceiling for some of those books, this is what that video is about. And it's not a knock to storyline books as what they are in terms of the quality or the emotional connection we have to the story of the book. It's purely looking at this from a sort of an economical growth perspective. All right, so with that said, I want to talk about a couple books that have been being spec'd on recently in the market, namely Secret Invasion and Armor Wars, and compare them to some other sort of storyline things and take a look at the data with you guys and kind of see where are we at with these sort of things and what is the potential with these sort of storyline books. So with that being said, let us pull up some of the stuff that I want to look at with you guys and let's have this conversation. All right, so recently, because it was Disney Investor Day, it was announced that a couple of Disney shows that we're going to be getting are Secret Invasion being one of them. This is going to be starring Samuel L. Jackson, a great, awesome storyline from 2008 by Brian Michael Bendis. And similarly, we're going to have Don Cheadle as War Machine doing a Armor Wars storyline. And for those who don't know, this is Iron Man 225, and this was the first issue of the Armor Wars that took place in the Iron Man run. Now, overall, these storylines are, really, really great storylines, really, really fun. And they, typically speaking, these two books that I'm pointing out now, Secret Invasion #1 and Iron Man 225, if you rewind the clock back a few weeks ago, these books were books that you could find in dollar bins, frankly. I mean, if you wanted to buy one on eBay, maybe it would run you $5 or so. So nobody really had, these books held up in any sort of way. And then flash forward to Disney Investor Day, and instantaneously overnight, these books are now selling, around the, raw end. They're selling around that, $25 mark. I saw one that was, as high as $35 being sold for one of the Armor Wars. I mean, really, really lofty prices. And certainly you can see for yourself that here in the data, if I take a look at something like Armor Wars, and we look at Go Collect here and the sales by grade, and we look at the analyzer, you can see here, after the news, it's been up 11.8%, 9.8 graded. Granted, there are not many graded copies here, but if I look at Secret Invasion, we look at across the board here, look at this, 140% increase, 106% increase, 80% increase. And as you can see, these are from 12/11, right after the Disney Investor Day. So, this one, the 9.8 on Secret Invasion, really, really people going ham with this one. People really, really leaning into this and wanting to get their hands on it as far as a spec book. And, that's understandable because we are definitely going to be seeing these storylines in the MCU. But what I want to ask here is, what is the growth potential of a book like this? Granted, we've already seen growth. And I think that that growth is here to stay. We went from being a book that was in dollar bins to now being a book that, maybe an LCS will sell you for $20 raw, or, a CGC 9.8, maybe it's yielding, I don't know, who knows, $100 or so. And we've already seen that growth. So what is the potential for growth beyond the show? Once we get Secret Invasion, or once we start to get the trailer, maybe the trailer will bump it up a little bit as far as, hype is concerned. And then maybe when we get the show, people will be really into it, and that'll take another bump. But once we're past the show, what happens to the book then? And I wanted to take a look at one thing with you, and that's going to be Infinity Gauntlet, which of course you guys know Infinity War and Endgame were based off of the Infinity Gauntlet book. And if I look at the data here for Infinity Gauntlet, look, great cover, beautiful book. This is still a great collector item regardless. But if we look at the data here, I pulled up the analyzer here. And if we look at the Go Collect values, if I rewind the clock back 730 days, this was right before Infinity War was about to come out, right? Right before Endgame, right when there was a lot of hype surrounding this book. If I rewind the clock here, I see 9.8, 140, 9.6, 60, and 9.4, 55. Now, what if I flash forward to what's going on now that we're removed from Endgame, now that we're over the Infinity Saga, now we're moving on to Phase 4, and this book has we're Infinity Gauntlet, we're sort of done with that, as we can see. When I look at the numbers here, what do I see? A big drop: 120, 50, and 48. So comparing, what we had when there was a lot of hype here, we had 140, 60, 55, and then now as we go on to where we are now, we're at 120. So generally speaking, when we look at the analyzer here, you can see at the top end, we're in the red. So, anecdotally speaking, this seems like, pretty obvious why. It's we were building towards Infinity War and Endgame. People were really excited about the Infinity Gauntlet, and they wanted to get their hands on this book. But once you sort of reach that plateau with a story, once you, are at the pinnacle, there's really nowhere else to go, because there's going to be no reason within context to pop culture for anyone to want to re-gravitate back to these books. The people that want to have them, and there's not going to be any material that's going to grab new people to drive that price up as a result, at least for the time being. So when it comes to sort of Secret Invasion and Armor Wars, I think right now is a good time to maybe want to spec on it. And I think that there's potential for growth within context to those books. But once we sort of reach the point where those books are out, I don't think that there's going to be much growth beyond that, because they will not have any more relevance to pop culture. This is all in comparison to when we want to spec on books that have first appearance of characters, because when we have characters that are come into the MCU, and we know that we're going to see these characters time and time again in new movies and sequels and event films and crossovers, their relevance, their cultural relevance is always going to remain. And as a result, those respective first appearance books are always going to be sort of desired and sought after. So anyways, that's just something I wanted to point out with you guys. Again, this isn't to knock any of the storyline books out there. I'm a big fan of Infinity Gauntlet #1. I think Secret Invasion is an awesome story, and Armor Wars is a very cool story. And if you're out there and you want to collect these books, you want to spec on them, by all means do it. I just kind of wanted to throw out to you guys that, I think that these things have a ceiling, and once we reach a certain, pinnacle, that's sort of the end of where I think they can grow. So anyways, let me know what you guys think. Are you guys high on storyline spec comic books? Do you guys like these as spec? What are your thoughts on this? I want to have this conversation with you guys. Leave a comment down for me, and let's have this conversation. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, please do so if you're enjoying the content. And yeah, I will see you in the next video.